Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Backlog Bunker. This week, I was going to talk about FF7 Rebirth, and now I'm not. I also finished Metaphor Refantazio, and to me the game feels a lot like Persona for people who wish Persona was just different. Like, I'm glad that it's, by all means, an original project from Atlus, but I still think that it ultimately comes down to being a sort of Persona light. Aside from demons not being present at all, a lot of this game's mechanics feel like experimentation with Persona and RPG mechanics, rather than trying to create something that was entirely new. The job system is new to Atlus games, as far as I know, but the implementation is so old and archaic that I compare it the most frequently to Final Fantasy V. One of the big problems with a Final Fantasy V job system is that progression really didn't expand outwards at all. You had a character do a job, and they got better at that job, and if they weren't doing that job, then they weren't making progress on anything else, aside from their personal levels, but that didn't really factor in as much. This means that the job system ends up doing the complete opposite of what it's supposed to, which is, hey, you're supposed to use a lot of jobs to fill a bunch of different niches, but if you actually want to make any progression, your best bet is to stick to one job, or, you know, in Metaphor's case, one lineage of jobs, and just do that for as long as possible. Again, a problem that is so old that Final Fantasy V did the exact same thing. Between this job system stuff and the game just being more fantastical than, as far as I know, anything else that Atlus has ever made, it feels a lot like this is just Atlus trying their hand at a more traditional RPG, just with, you know, the Atlus flavor. That Atlus flavor also being something they apparently want to experiment with, because the calendar system, social links, and social stats come straight from Persona, but they're all different in minor but very noticeable ways. In terms of the calendar, it's mostly the same, except for the fact that there's way more to do at night than I think any other Persona game. They've certainly gotten better at it as time has gone on. 5 is leaps and bounds ahead of even 4 Golden in terms of what you can do at night. But still, even 5 was limited. But Metaphor is basically split like halfway down the middle when it comes to night activities versus day activities. Not only can you, at basically any point in the game, increase any one of your social stats during the day or night, but like half of your social links will be only available at nighttime. Not that Persona hasn't had nighttime social links before, but the crucial difference being that they've never been party members. Well, they've never been party members in 4 or 5. Maybe 3 will surprise me. Generally, I think this makes for a much better balance in terms of being able to do things across the entire game, considering that every single Persona game that I've played up to this point has had at least some stretch of time where it felt like I was just doing nothing but jerking off. To the point where, between this better balance and the fact that social links themselves just automatically go up and you don't have to grind friendship points with people, I got everything done way before the end of the game. Well, it depends on what you mean by way before, but I had quite a few days left to do whatever I wanted, basically. Unlike Persona, I beat Metaphor, and it feels like I can just be done, as opposed to every Persona game that I've played, where I beat them, but I didn't get to do everything, and so it's like, yeah, you want to play on New Game Plus now, don't you? I, to this day, through both my original 4 and the Golden playthroughs, have never been able to finish Naoto's social link. There's just no time. Because of this, I would actually say the Persona games have better replay value because there are things still to be done on a second playthrough, whereas with Metaphor, because I've done everything, I'm not even really sure what the point of a New Game Plus would even be, because I've done everything. So I guess if we're thinking about things that Persona might carry from Metaphor, I'd argue that it should carry more of the complete playthrough feeling in Persona 6, but at the same time, there should be things to do on a second playthrough that isn't just finish your social links. I guess to finish out the topic, there is one other aspect of Metaphor in which I think Atlus is experimenting with what they might do with other games, and that's having any amount of nuance in the story. I'm not going to get too deep into it because I don't really want to go over a whole thing with Metaphor story right now, but for the most part, Metaphor story is really good and has way more nuance than I ever would have expected from the hack frauds that put out just take out the bad guys and society will be fixed in Persona 5. Though I suppose an aspect of the story that they're not willing to experiment with is having a strong ending at all, because Metaphor, much like Persona games, shits the bed about halfway through. Since I'm not getting deep into it, I'm not even going to bother with spoilers. But for people who know, it's when the game gets to twist central, and none of the twists are very good. With how many twists there are back to back, you would think statistically at least one of them would hit, and they just don't. But otherwise, I like the game. If Atlus made more good games, I would be happy, but you know, still waiting on that one. But it has made me want to try SMT more, so something good did come out of it. But that's all for this week, which means it's time to get to the weekly topic, that being if DLC is better than game revisions. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, between like Street Fighter having its DLC and City of the Wolves getting its 3rd season coming up, I saw a lot of people talking about how DLC is a flawed way of fighting games getting more content after they release, but then I saw other people pushing back on that by saying, hey, at least it's better than the revisions that we used to get for the entire game, and I don't necessarily agree. While DLC is generally better than revisions, this is not an endorsement of DLC, nor an admittance that things are entirely better now. While revisions suck for people who bought the original game, anyone buying the game after the fact gets the full package with no frills. To bring this back to Atlas, Persona 5 Royal sucks for people who own Persona 5, but for anyone who hasn't played it yet, they just buy the newest version of Persona 5, which is Royal, and they don't have to think about whether or not they want the DLC or not, because it's just the whole game. I've never heard anything good about the answer part of Persona 3, so I'm probably not going to buy Episode Aegis in Reload, but it's not something I even have to consider when I want to play Persona 3 Fez. There's also the fact that when we're talking about fighting games, a lot of these revisions came to arcades first. You didn't even have to pay for the next revision of Street Fighter 2, you just walked into the arcade one day, and you still only paid $0.25 for the new experience. Then to expand on the part where I'm saying I'm not endorsing DLC, I often liken the shift to DLC as moving from getting shot in the stomach to getting stabbed. It's technically better, but not something that we should praise or advocate for in any way. DLC should effectively be a way of getting in ideas that you have way too late to development to actually pay for, or even after development has already finished. That's why we pay for DLC. If it didn't cost them more to make, it shouldn't cost us more to get. This surely applies to a lot of games, but as time goes on, it almost feels like DLC is premeditated or some kind of requirement. And for some reason, gamers encourage this. It's considered sacrilege for a fighting game to release without a roadmap nowadays. People still swear up and down that Mario Kart will get DLC, like they want to pay more for the $80 video game. Revisions suck, sure, but is paying more for less any better? Anyway, that's all from me. Get out of here.